Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Cynthia Bednar, and welcome to Cynful Connections, where I have the pleasure of sharing conscious, loving conversations with all the beautiful souls I've been blessed to know throughout my life. Let's get started.
So I've been contemplating for the past year starting a podcast, but getting that first one under your belt is just, oh my gosh. I'm so grateful to have my dear friend through Divine Orchestration join me today. I have Julia Mason on the phone, and Julia and I met years ago, and I'm going to let Julia tell that story. But through a conversation the other day, we were talking about how we both would like to start a podcast. And she said, oh, it'd be a great idea if you had someone interview you. And I'm like, yes, it is a great idea, isn't it? I said, but the funny thing is I attract a lot of people with blocked throat chakras, and nobody wants to interview me. Would you happen to want to interview me? And you're like, yeah, absolutely, I will interview you. If it weren't for you, I don't know when this would be happening. I'm so much indebted to you for this very first call. And I'm just going to go ahead and pass it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And first of all, I'm just celebrating you, Cynthia, so much for starting. Because I think so often in our lives that first step really blocks us. So here you are doing the dang thing, and I'm here along with you for the ride. So as Cynthia said, my name is Julia Mason. We met because I actually purchased Cynthia's house from her. I was moving from the Philadelphia area back to my hometown of Ohio, and I was definitely going through it. I had two very young children. My husband had just started a new job, and I was very much leaning into spirit and higher power to support me in finding a new home for our beautiful family. And the thing about finding the house was I loved our house in Pennsylvania. And it was very, very hard for me to leave that house. I remember sitting on the couch at that house and saying to spirit or higher power, should we leave? Can I actually find something I like better in Ohio? And I heard you will find something you like much more.
Mm.
I was like, okay, I'm trusting this. And lo and behold, on Facebook, I saw Cynthia's house was listed, and I immediately fell in love with the photo. And I think it was only like the third house I looked at in Ohio with our real estate agent. And I just knew when I stepped onto the front porch and I shook your hand, Cynthia, something went through my body, just like a knowing that this was it. I didn't even look at the house, to be quite honest with you, when we walked in. Like most people would like look in the bathroom, see if they like the tile, make sure like the little details are okay, or is everything like level? Are there any cracks anywhere? It's an older home. I didn't look at anything. I just trusted my body. And that was really one of the first times in my life that I really just leaned in and trusted. And my husband, he was an engineer, thought I had absolutely lost my mind. He was like, you barely even looked at it and you just know. You just know. And I'm like, yes, yes. And it was such a beautiful lesson in trusting. And yeah, so grateful to have met you. And our relationship has definitely unfolded from there.
Yes. And it's interesting when I met you as well, felt the same energetic, synchronistic feeling of it's anyone that I would want to live in this home that I really poured my heart into restoring and all the things that we polished in that environment. As soon as I met you and your babies, and it was just like so comfortable. He never wanted you to leave when you came in to look at the house, and my kitties loved you. So that was just two thumbs up on my side. So I agree very much. Divine orchestration there. It's beautiful.
Yes. yeah, since then, Cynthia is actually one of my clients now. I have a business called Enthusiasm Lab, and I've just been supporting her through her journey of entrepreneurship and this beautiful business that she has built that we will talk about shortly. So it's just been completely divine and amazing. So Cynthia, to start, do you mind telling the listeners where you're at now, where you're living now that I have your house?
Mm. Yeah, since leaving Ohio, made a quick stop in Arizona. I was in Scottsdale for a little over a year and a half. And now I've landed here in Hill Country, Texas, in a little town called New Braunfels. And ironically, what called me to New Braunfels is it felt very much like downtown Willoughby. Like the homes are historical and the little town is German based ethnic kind of environment. The stores closed by 6. Despite the hot summers, 8 months out of the year, extremely comfortable compared to what we're used to. Definitely a big change for me there.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm
Mm.
always a little envious of that warmer weather down there since I'm in Ohio.
Yeah,
It's just,
yeah.
yeah, it's amazing down there. And I've actually been down there a couple of times this past year. So again, very divine.
Mm.
Can you share with me, Cynthia, what you're doing now and just a little bit about the work that you do and your gifts that you present to the world?
Yeah. In the last 2 years, really since 2015, I guess I would consider that where my self-development really started to begin outside of my corporate America type job. All started with yoga and has expanded into energy work and tapping into and trusting the intuitive gifts, the healing tools that are coming in. The more that I create clear channel, the more that I spend time with myself and spend time with God and really just get comfortable with stillness. That is the number one change in my life since I think I've found my place here, my home in Texas, is finding comfort and stillness. And that was a very big shift for me. But moving away from corporate America and into this place of trying to just be the inspiration to people to begin to do all the same things that I'm doing for themselves, working through your shadows. And really, all of us have these gifts. And the more that you clear that channel, the more those gifts just certainly come in. And that's really my place in my where I feel in this space right now is being the entry point or a safe place for people to even explore what it means to begin healing and allow folks to share their story with me while I sit and see myself within them and through them and help and guide them out of where the noise is the best way to say it. But to the point, Julia, this is what I'm still in process of defining. It's like I have these clients, and what I've been doing with my clients is having a one-on-one consult because I could be doing energy work with someone, I could be doing traditional Reiki, angelic Reiki, we could be doing yoga, movement, breath work, or just having intuitive healing sessions where we're actually just having conversation to work through in integrating consciousness in your life. And until I really defined a set of focus, it's really each person's a different formula. And I love the idea that I'm able to remain open to discern what each person needs and how that might be different than the last person. So just very much like you're saying, sitting with my intuition and deciding how can we work together and what does this person need in order to get past the hardship. I don't know if that even answers your question. I'm still really actually defining it so that it's anything healing at this point.
Yeah, I think that's what's so special about you, Cynthia, is that you really offer a wide range of modalities and you have a lot of experience under your belt in different areas. And for each individual, you really cater a specific formula for them after hearing what their desires are and really meeting them where they're at in their life, which
Mhm.
is so nice because so often we see like a one size fits all solution to things. And that's not the case for us. We're all individuals with different histories and different challenges that we have. I think that's so beautiful.
Mm, thank you.
You're welcome. And of course, like without breaching confidentiality or anything, can you share like a transformational story from your work that's deeply moved you or changed the way that you approach your practice or an experience you had possibly with yourself or a client?
Mm, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting coming from corporate IT background. Working in corporate America, you're like programmed to believe you have your go to market strategy, and then you push marketing and you push content, and it's how many hits, and it's a numbers game, right? That's what's been programmed in my mind, having a consulting and sales background and so on. And what's different, completely opposite, is when I was using that skill set of chase energy. That was the kind of client I was getting, clients who are not ready. The ambiguity around how I intake a client and make a decision on how we begin to work together is really about someone's ability to receive and be open and be vulnerable. So many times someone will come to me and they'll want yoga. That's usually what the entry point conversation is. I want to like integrate yoga in my people think if you do yoga, that's going to give you peace. And I'm one of them. That's how I started doing yoga. I need peace. Like I was a CrossFitter and then started doing yoga. So that's people's beginning when that's their initial thought. That brings me to, okay, that person is in a place where they would prefer to be physically working through energy versus emotionally working through energy. So I might guide that person to allow me to do a Reiki session together where I can go in and help clear and move some energy. And through that kind of hypnotic relaxation, begin to like implant the programming and allow them to identify the trapped emotions that I can feel as I'm working through the energy. And that usually is what opens up the floodgate. So I do have a client that I've been working with, and I would say for my first Reiki sessions, there was no release. And egoically, that was very difficult for me as a Reiki practitioner because usually person cries and has a lot of release. And so it's working and you're like, okay, I got it. Yeah, great, great, do it. But this particular person did not release ever. And I could never hear her crying. I could never hear anything. And then on my third session with her, instead of her just receiving Reiki, I actually integrated breath work into the Reiki session. And just to be clear, when I do a distance Reiki, I'm actually walking you through guided meditation. There's a bit of a hypnotic voice thing that happens that you get into a zone per se. I could feel she was in the zone and we were guiding her through breath work during my Reiki session. I no longer had to prompt her to do breath. I was audibly hearing her her body was just doing the breath intentionally, and I could audibly hear her inhale and exhale. And for the very first time, she had a release. For each person, I have to just see, what is it? Do they need more safety? Do I need to nurture them? Do we need to force energy flow to get it open? So on and so forth. She didn't have the expectation of a release. She's in her 20s, and she found me miraculously on the website from doing a search, which, thank you, Julia, for doing good SEO marketing on cynfulpeace.com, because I do come to the top of the list. And she did say when she went to my website, I just could feel you on your website. That's all you. It's us
Yeah,
together.
so
Yes.
beautiful.
And she was doing it with me because she was feeling stress relief from doing a Reiki session, which again, egoically, I had to let go of that because I'm looking for the release for people. But some people just need rest. And some people just need to actually feel what that peace feels like. So it's a constant release on my side as I'm healing with someone else. I'm also healing the measurement of perfection and the expectations of, am I doing this right, type of stuff. But she, to me, validated my one-on-one, validated the fact that I'm not trying to create a focus. I'm not trying to like be a brand of some type of healing modality. And if I meet with someone and I believe emotion code, body code, belief code, or cranial sacral massage therapy might be better for them, I've got a network of beautiful souls that I work with that I'll refer you to. So just want folks to understand that it isn't a one size fits all. And not everything, not every person is ready to do the different modalities on their own. And if I can expose someone to something new that opens their eyes to something that's going to like bring them into awareness to make a pivot, perfect.
Mhm.
My last year and a half has been a lot of just education and exposing myself to all these different modalities, going to other people retreats and learning from them and seeing every different angle of it so that I can be a place for others to learn through. And I did all the legwork per se.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I think that's so wonderful that you can act as a guide for them on where to get started with which modalities, and you offer so
Mhm.
many. And like you said, if you don't have what they need, then you have such a great network of amazing souls that can help and support them.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And if you were to give advice to someone just starting out on their journey in their spirituality or awakening, what advice would you give them? What do you wish you would have known at the beginning of your journey?
Looking back, the one thing that comes to my mind is that it's not a race, it's a marathon, and it's never ending. I'm proud of how I've gone through my journey. It exposed me to experiences that I needed to be doing what I'm doing, but there's no but. And most importantly, I'm 52 years old. So for 52 years, or let's say 48 years, I wasn't mindful about what music I was listening to. I never really embraced politics or the news or any of that. So that wasn't something I needed to like discard from my life. I hadn't watched the news or read about the news in 15 years. But when you begin this, the area that you're going to feel the most resistance in is the area of your old version of yourself, which that old version typically is attached to those programs. And The very first thing I did was change my music. I didn't listen to music that I thought was harmful to listen to begin with. I always liked quality music, or I thought it was quality music, but I shifted away of anything that has a love storyline to it, anything that has swearing in it, and then just became very mindful of the frequencies that music are created in. But that was the first thing that I felt completely shifted. I used to say I'm not a morning person. It would be something that everybody knew, and it would be what I would say to people in order for them to understand that expect me to be late. I'm not a morning person. It was just part of this identity that I created for myself. And then I started to change my music, and I would turn music on as soon as I would wake up in the morning. It would just be part of my morning. And I'm telling you, the different words, I don't know, I just became a morning person. And now I'm a morning person. So that is how simple it is to change your life. And I don't want to say the word simple because that's can be very triggering for people, but it is actually that simple. So it's like the intake, you can't control what people outside of you are, but you can control like the things that you can, the intake that you can control, make the change. Do not watch the news, get out of the normal sitcoms, the programming and the the way that they normalize people being self-abusive and unkind to each other through humor and the normalization of toxic behaviors. I got out of my life. And once I did that, it did feel like I was a bit on an island. I'm like over here sending all this music to my friends. Have you ever heard of Landrell?
No.
It's very spiritual music. He has a lot of guided meditations. It's mainstream. He's got a very unique voice, Julia. It's very unique. And if you're not going down the spiritual path, if you heard this music, I'm sure my friends thought I was like going to the loony bin. But the words in these songs are all affirmation. It's love yourself type music. It's in heart chakra frequency, and you feel it. It literally lifts and creates light. It is an acquired taste, though. Like my body was ready for it. My ears were ready for it. And that was my beginning. I was like, listen to this song, listen to it 5 times. If you listen to it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So I that would be it because it's those things that create the resistance to you beginning to accept yourself in a new version. It's others' fear or they're not ready to change. And as far as the societal things going on, you don't need that outside noise making you question like what it is that you're feeling and knowing that you need to do. It was very difficult and it remains difficult, frankly. Even when I come home, it's sometimes difficult because people are projecting their fear of my kind of life on me, and it's I don't need help. I don't need more fears to get through. I don't want
Mhm.
your fears too. I'm working through my own. So it's definitely changing what you can on the intake.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful advice, especially for beginners. And yeah, like you said, it's just so powerful to, in order to align yourself with the frequency of love, very much be mindful of what you're surrounding yourself in music and books and television. And it's a great first step and it is challenging, but it has a profound impact on your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm.
And I know you said there's nothing you would really do differently looking back, but are there pivotal moments throughout your spiritual journey that you're extremely grateful for?
Mm. Oh my gosh, so many. just like you described coming over to my house, and that was the first time you could really identify with what, like, you tapped in and you listened. On my 50th, when I went to Costa Rica, it was like so many synchronicities on this trip. And coming home from that trip, it was so repetitive. It was just not something I could like ignore. The whole time I was on the trip, I was just like, I knew I needed to quit my job.
Mm.
I was starting to understand resistance. It's interesting when you start going down this path. Part of my trauma is around perfectionism and just self-judgment. Self-responsibility is actually not difficult for me. It's like the opposite. I have to find grace for myself because I'm so radically self-responsible that sometimes I'm taking on what's not even mine to be responsible for. Yeah, when the awareness came in and I started to recognize my contribution into my failed relationships and my contribution into the resistance I was feeling at work, and I was understanding, okay, this is why this is happening. Okay, I need to have boundaries. Okay, this was not his fault. But I was understanding why things were happening, but then how to go from, oh, now I understand why. Now, what do I do to change that? That was like the big kicker for me. And it was on my Costa Rica trip that it just became so clear to me that, okay, the resistance at work is going to continue. You are not meant to be in IT. You're just not meant to be doing the things that you're doing right now. Doesn't matter if you like it, doesn't matter if you're good at it. You're not a generator. You're supposed to be in the forefront, and you're always fighting to get in the forefront, etc. So it was very apparent to me, okay, the resistance is going to continue. However, you still have two kids in college. Okay, so set that aside. I understand that. I accept that. The next question was, what do I need to do to work through this resistance and begin to call in what is right for me? And so the answer was, go ahead and schedule these retreats. Come home and throw some stuff out on social media, book it a couple months in advance, worry about taking time off of work later. Like, they'll never know. Just don't even worry about the corporate job. Do enough to get your paycheck and do what you have to do to get this business going while you have the comfort and safety of this job. And so I felt very grounded in that decision. Okay, that's the right thing to do. That's why this job is in front of me this right now. That's why I get to work from home. That's why I made all these justifications, and I felt very strong. I mean, came home, and within, I think, like, it was something like January 5th. Is when I put my first post out there, and I was like raring to go. I'm going to throw 2 women's retreats in 1 month in Sedona all by myself. I don't know what I was thinking, but that was my plan. Then on January 15th, I'm on TikTok for the first time. My kids go, Mom, go on TikTok and look to see how other people are marketing their retreat. What you're doing is not going to get attention. I'm like, okay, show me how. They're like, go on TikTok and do this and look at this. So I'm on TikTok, and on that day, I see a video from a guy that's talking about mushrooms, psilocybin. My kids have been like wanting to do mushrooms with me, and I was like terrified, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do that, like, not my cup of tea. And so I saw this guy talking about mushrooms, and so I DM'd him, and I was like, listen, I'm going to be doing these retreats and Sedona, and I was wondering if you might want to chat about collaborating, because I thought, how cool if I could have someone come and facilitate a mushroom experience at my retreat. My kids would love it, blah, blah, blah. And at this point, I'm thinking like my kids are going to fill my retreat with all their like high school friends. You know what I mean? I'm thinking this is going to be easy peasy, like no problem. booked the retreat. Yeah. So I reached out to this guy, and he says, yes, we do psilocybin, and we started in the mushroom family. The parental spirit medicine is ayahuasca, and that's the deep healing, and the psilocybin is the inner child, et cetera, et cetera. He goes through this whole thing. Well, I'd never heard of ayahuasca at this point, but I was still like really intrigued by the psilocybin thing. He has a retreat coming up in a month. He would love to have me there. It's going to be in Texas. And I'm like, a month? That doesn't, yeah, I just got back from Costa Rica. I just took 3 weeks off of work. Really probably shouldn't take another week off for another retreat a month later. So I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'll check in with you on your next retreat. A couple days later, he calls me back and he says, me and my wife been talking about it. She's extremely intuitive and she just really wants you to come to this retreat. And if we knock off $1,000, would that give you the gumption to come? And I
Wow.
was just like, yeah, I'm like, why? I didn't even meet his wife, but it just seemed so divine to get that call back. And I did decide on January 18th to book this trip to Texas because I was going to try mushrooms. I never Googled ayahuasca. I didn't tell anybody about it. It wasn't until the day before the trip I told my kids what I was doing, and they were both like, Mom, do you know what ayahuasca is? And I'm like, no, I don't. So please don't tell me. All I know is I know I'm supposed to go to this. I just
Wow.
know I'm supposed to go to this. I would normally be the type of person that would Google and do all this research and go to YouTube and do a pros and con list and measure the risks and blah, blah. I would normally be that person. But something inside of me said, nope, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. And so I go to this ayahuasca experience that was in February. February 18th was the date. And yeah, it leveled up my life. It completely changed everything in my life in one weekend. And
Wow.
the thing is about ayahuasca or any healing modality, but ayahuasca definitely has a bad rap for this, is that certainly you go there and it peels the layers quick. If you're ready to shed and see what you need to see and feel what you need to feel to release it, like it is extraordinary what it did for me personally. And it's not for everyone, however. And what you do with what you experience from ayahuasca afterwards is the only thing that matters. And people
Mm.
just forget that part, or they keep just sitting with the medicine. Like I got caught in the loop of sitting with the medicine too much and understanding how you integrate it, how you change, what you change in your life. What are you doing with the awareness that you get from this experience is everything. So
Mhm.
I think certainly those moments were just extraordinarily pivotal. I sat with the medicine in February. In April, my vehicle got stolen in Scottsdale and I bought the RV. So that created a whole experience of doing the corporate jobs from an RV boondocking experience. I did that for a month. And then I quit my corporate job by July and started Simple Peace by August. A lot of stuff happened since February of that 1 year. And the amount of fear and so many intervention meetings with my friends and family who thought I was in a cult or I was going down some destructive paths. And I'll get messages like, are you okay? And I'm practically walking on clouds. Yes, I'm wonderful. I'm not crying out of sadness. I'm crying out of gratitude. I've never felt this amount of love and joy in my entire life. That's when you see tears. It's definitely that one phone call, January 15th. I completely leveled my entire life to a completely different realm, honestly.
Wow. What a
Mm,
great example of just trusting your body and
mm,
getting grounded in your nervous system and just really trusting your body to make such a huge decision for you. Like you, I think typical Julia would be like doing pros and cons lists and things, but like you just went for it and it completely changed your life.
mhm,
And how do you meet that resistance from family and friends? Because I think so many listeners can relate to this, especially as they start their journey of like really having to shed a lot of possible relationships as well as creating boundaries with people. So what does that look like for you?
mm. It's so interesting because with the people that you love the most or that have consumed time or chapters in your life, I think for me, the very first step here was understanding reason, season, lifetime relationships. And when you have resistance in those relationships, it was actually quite graceful how my transition of misalignment happened for me because really all I did is I began to reflect the energetic initiation that I was getting from people in my life. And the moment that I moved to Arizona, it was more clear energetically where the alignment was because you have to begin to exert a lot of energy into a relationship when you don't have someone physically in your space or etc. And so when I began to just reflect what people were reflecting towards me as it relates to energetic effort, it just fell, the relationship just fell away. And there was never really any breakup. There was never any hard feelings. I, at times, energetically could feel misunderstood, or I don't like to use the word judged because I definitely have a lot of loving friends and family who are not in alignment right now. So it's not a judge, it's really mostly just a misunderstanding and projecting fear on someone because you fear it for yourself is something I really understand. And although I don't give, just because I know the root of someone's misalignment doesn't make it okay, but I can look at it very lovingly. And that's the thing about healing, right? Is that my first thing to do in any situation, I look at the person, I look at you, Julia, and I see myself in you. I see myself with young children. I see myself with these aspirations and the perseverance that you have, doing your own thing as a woman. I see you. And boy, was it interesting to have a call with you the other day and see the office behind you in the office that I used to be sitting in. It was just like this perspective.
Hmm.
So in those friends and family, I see them. I see myself in them.
Yeah, that's it's so powerful and so profound, especially in those relationships that sometimes can be challenging, especially for me, like looking at that person and like you said, just seeing myself in them and meeting with them where exactly where they're at. Because we're all humans, we're all connected, we're all one at the end of the day. It's just remembering that is
Yeah, I
so
think it's
profound.
100%. And honestly, it's just the test of patience and your faith that, um, all I can do is be able to be here to hold space when and if someone is ready. And it's and I'm sitting here in patience, just really trusting that God is guiding my loved ones. And it's I think about all these other chapters in my life. No one could have gotten me out of that chapter. No conversation, no big epiphany moment. It no one. So how are they different? What am I trying to heal people for? All I can do is just continue to heal myself, and hopefully people shift away from being triggered and fearful and become inspired and understand that every step that I took was a very small baby step. These steps didn't start just in the last year. I've been taking these steps since my dad died in 2013. I've been patient with myself, and I didn't share with a lot of people what I was manifesting because I made it more real, and I didn't need to take on other people's questions of how, because it's a key thing. You just can't ask how. That just cannot be in the forefront, because the moment you ask how, the limiting beliefs flood in. Yeah. Again, back to the way people come in and out of your life. I don't need to know how. It's not my business. I don't need to understand why they're not ready. I trust and have so much faith that the experiences that they're having right now, although they appear to be on a hamster wheel, it is the hamster wheel that they need to be on. And I was once on that hamster wheel. That's it. And when they're ready, they'll jump off the hamster wheel. And maybe we'll catch up then. It's
Mhm.
just the acceptance of you cannot push somebody along. And I don't want to push. I don't want to pull. I don't want to chase.
Mhm.
But definitely, I think, as you're stating, this is the number one challenge: boundaries and releasing people that are not serving you and that are holding you back. That is the number one thing that I talk about in my sessions with people: the resistance and the acceptance that you sometimes do have to walk away from somebody that is a family member. If that relationship is stopping you from going through your healing path, that is the answer. That doesn't mean you don't love them from far away. It doesn't mean you like break up with them. You just create space and create boundaries. And that is so hard for people. So hard. I don't know how I would have done it living at home, honestly. Moving to Arizona and then moving to Texas, that physical distance created what I needed to actually start to understand where I was not having boundaries for myself, where I was taking others' stuff on.
Mm. Creating an actual physical distance does make it a lot easier, but
Mhm.
like you said, it's
Mhm.
so important to be able to release with love and yeah,
Mhm.
have those boundaries with people. Yeah. Oh, thank you. That was so much good advice there. I really appreciate
Mm.
it. I think I would love to ask you these questions that actually a close friend of mine asked me for my birthday, and I thought it was so divine to reflect on these questions. And I think it'd be a great way for the audience to get to know you even better and connect with you. What would you say your biggest lesson from the past year, three standout moments, and then your intention for the new year is?
Oh my god. So many lessons. For this year, I would say the biggest realization that I had was how much I lie to myself.
Mm,
Yeah. And context for that is seeing a higher self version in people versus seeing and accepting how they're showing up in reality, and like looking past experiences or just lying to myself about how I felt about an experience or why I did a certain thing through an experience. It's not lies in a deceitful lying way. It's giving people a pass for being unkind. When I would lie to myself and say, well, really was that unkind? And the person just isn't used. I know I really make people feel seen, and that probably just was the first time that they felt seen. I would
Mm-hmm.
create these stories in my head that would justify all of these things where I was ignoring resistance and ignoring red flags, finding ways to lie through rather than giving an actual boundary, the people pleasing, little white lies for someone who's trying to be an open channel, to be a place of healing, receiving, and sharing. The lies that might make me question when something actually is something I should be listening to. You're lying to yourself about whatever it is. You subconsciously also begin to question your intuition. You question what is fair boundaries. You question everything because little white lies. So that was a really big realization. It was a hard one because in my past relationship, deceit was the number one challenge, and I could not see myself in him.
Mm.
No.
That's
I
a
mean, white
radical
lies are not any different.
self-responsibility.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
with a white lie, you're only hurting you're abusing yourself. If you look up a white lie, it says it's to avoid someone else's feelings being hurt. So I white lie all day to help everybody else's feelings, but not my own. So that realization of this continued self-abuse and my awareness of what that was doing was probably my biggest thing this year.
Mm.
I didn't go through the whole year understanding that. I had little examples of it, and it's just recently that I realized that I've been a pathological liar to myself through
Mm-hmm.
some very traumatic experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I watch it all around me. And so that was the big one. And then I would say number two, this one's a big one too, is that it's no one's job to keep your boundary for you.
Mm.
It's just so big because it is uncomfortable to create boundaries with people you've never had boundaries with. It is very uncomfortable for other people and for you. It's just uncomfortable. And so when you take out external to yourself for someone to do something for you, save you, keep your boundaries, keep you safe, keep you secure, all those things, you're just telling yourself that you can't do that for yourself.
Mm.
And so that repetitive reminder that you just don't need anyone outside of you to make your decisions. You don't need anyone outside of you to know what is right. You don't need anyone outside of you to keep you safe. Like all of that and the realization of how much that was prevalent in my life, it completely has changed the way I look at things at this point. Everything that comes out of my mouth, I'm thinking, is this true? Am I speaking truth right now? If you spend all your day asking yourself if you're speaking truth, you have no time to be depressed or have anxiety. You have no time because your brain is so in the moment of, is this true? That you don't have time to think of something else. It's so interesting.
Mm.
And then 3 things. What was it? 3 things that
3 standout moments from the past year.
oh my gosh. I thought I met my soulmate. I hosted my first plant medicine retreat, and the thing that I'm most proud of is being in a place of knowing why I'm here. Sometimes I'll get videos and I'll say, "Just keep going. If you feel like you wanna give up," and no, I don't remotely feel in give up mode. I'm exploding with readiness to make huge impact. Yeah, having that very strong knowing of I don't know if it's gonna be running retreats or I don't know what it is that or how I'm going to do this for the moment. I've shared with you what I'm enjoying doing right now, and that's enough. I don't need to know anything else. I just trust whatever's supposed to happen. It's gonna be like presented to me. And it's every time I go through a really strong release or any kind of hardship, something huge and pivotal always comes, either financial or miraculously I get new clients and I'm not searching for them. I posted my first men's get together. Things are just being brought to me.
Mm.
And diving into your human design, that's a game changer. I've learned that I'm a manifesting generator and my strategy is to respond. And I'm extremely mindful about not initiating because that's my thing. I've always been an initiator because it's confusing being a manifesting generator and only needing to respond because I'm also a manifester. Since August, I've been forcing myself to remain in response mode. And since then, I'm getting clients without any real effort. And I just it just be everything becomes more and more clear all the time for me. The more I surrender to it, the more that I listen to these things. It's a natural inclination right now for me to want to, beginning of the year, launch a bunch of retreats and get it going. I'm like, because I've been resting for some time now. No, I'm feeling into it, and Spirit's telling me, no, rest. Just keep resting, keep responding. You don't need to. You don't need to do that anymore. Stop it. You are taken care of. That's the continual message I get. And I'm telling you, I'm just listening to it. And things are happening miraculously, like literally every day.
Mhm.
And what was the
Oh.
third question?
Oh, yes, your intention for the year.
Well, my intention for the year is to continue doing what I'm doing, inspired action, which is what today's about, sharing, which is like what today's about, connection, which is what today is about. And it's just diving more and more into faith. I want to introduce all the tools that help connecting and creating space easier for people. Because when people would say to me before, pray, just pray. What do you mean pray? What's that going to do for me? Like, people, I know people have a hard time. Is someone listening? Who am I praying to? How do I know this is doing something? And I mean, I don't have to like it's anymore. Meditating is not like something I have to do. It's something like I want to do. And the minute I drop in and I connect and I can feel it, I can feel it. that heart expansion feeling that you get when you're connecting with, it's so like, it's hard to explain to someone what that feels like when you can allow yourself to receive the support and love of all your angels and guides and God and Jesus. Everyone is there waiting for you to ask for help.
Mm.
And I don't think people realize that they can't help you without consent. So if you're sitting there resistant, talking to your angels, talking to your guides, if you're resistant to just, this isn't Bible thumper stuff. This is literally just open the channel to spirit and give them permission to guide you and support you, things change quickly. All you have to do is ask, though. You just have to ask. And it took me years to do that. Years. You know what? Namaste. I've been doing yoga for a very long time. And I did not pray until years later, nor did I really understand. I can feel connection right now, right in my hand. For the year, I'm just doing more of what I'm doing and just being. Honestly, I'm feeling a lot of grounding, releasing the measurement of myself.
Mm.
What have I done in my business so far? Where am I at? Do I have the next things on the schedule? I have idea streams going on in my life right now that I'm allowing myself to wait to respond. I've already put it out there. I'm going to pursue equestrian healing. Very, very called to work with horses. I feel very called to go and do energy work in hospice. My dad had a very bad experience in hospice. My mom had a very bad experience with my dad in hospice. And I believe that angelic Reiki was brought into my life to bring that to the hospice experience. And the idea of bringing angels into someone's space while they're in active dying stages, thank you. Thank you for
Mm.
bringing me as a channel to do that. So, yes, I have all these plans of all these things I want to do. I have a mother-daughter retreat I want to launch soon, and like I said, a men's retreat that I want to launch soon. But right now, I'm just waiting to get the message and the sign to push forward in one of those things. I'll meet the right person to I don't have a horse to heal. I'm calling in someone with a horse that is looking to explore energy work with me. And until that happens, I'm okay. I'm very patient.
Mm.
And I think that last year, with no judgment, I did put a lot of pressure on myself, and I did work through the release of measurement of the activity. What was visibly active? What were people seeing me do? I was more worried about, do people think I'm successful in my new business? Are people still questioning me leaving my corporate job? I think I finally have just don't care. My life is extremely lovely. I wake up and do whatever I want every single day. I am on vacation every day. And I only choose to do things that my heart wants to do. And I hope other people find their way to this. That's it. And I'll be here when and if they're ready to first take that first step. And that's
Mm.
what was so big about this, Julia, is that the first step of this was, now that we're doing it, it's wow, this is quite natural. I love this. I can't wait to have you as my guest. I have a million questions, but y- y- it just having someone to help me get through a fear is extraordinary. I connected with an old friend just a couple days ago, and honestly, it was absolute gift. I had not connected with this person for over a year, and she was a very dear friend of mine who I've known since I was 15 years old. And this is a person that, just fell off in alignment through the journey out of being misunderstood. And we had a really beautiful conversation. And this person was reaching out to me because her son just got engaged and bought a home, and she was coming home from his house, and she got her download from spirit saying, you did it. Like, you, all the limiting beliefs and insecurities you had as a single parent, like, your son is amazing. And yeah, I was very much a part of her journey and finding her personal power through her very abusive breakup with her ex-husband. And just, it was emotionally abusive for her to come out of that. And I was the wind beneath her wings. And she's someone that I worked with for a bunch of years. Every time I would change jobs, she would follow me in some way. And it was just beautiful how we were able to go through all these chapters in our lives together. But she was calling me just to thank me for being that person for her. It was so beautiful. It was just the biggest gift that I never expected, nor did I need. And and I had that knee-jerk reaction to want to, like, oh my gosh, is, is there a spiritual awakening happening? Oh my gosh. I got really excited, and then I fell into faith, and nope, this was a gift. And this is to show you that it's not about you healing and helping people. It's about you being you. And she felt safe to reach out to you despite the distance. And she pushed past her fear of rejection and calling you so she could share with you the impact you made. It was just so beautiful, Julia. But more than anything, it just, it was affirming that you have to let go. You have to see reason, season, lifetime friends for who they are. Those are all pivotal, important people. The person you run into at the grocery store may be pivotal in your life. You don't even know it yet. And as you let those people go and you release the attachment of the trauma bonding and the other versions of yourself that you have with that person, as you release those and let them go, that's what allows people to have the space to heal for themselves. If you hold on to all those relationships, those are the versions of, it's so difficult for you to, like, let yourself and let each other step into the new versions of each other. It's scary for people when other people are changing and you're not changing yet. It's scary to realize what you need to do in order to change your life. And when someone around you is doing it regardless, it just puts it in your face that you're not. But it just showed me that I just need so much love. I like, there are times that I felt hurt by, I moved out of state and never heard from any of these friends. No one came and visited me, but that wasn't personal. That was God creating space to show where the energetic alignment is, and allowed me to detach and allow myself to no longer be responsible for other people's lives in any way. And then they went off and did it on their own because everybody has the ability to do that. And it was a testament of what letting go does, because I feel quite certain that this person is going to continue down her healing path. I'm not going to judge, nor am I going to measure the rate in which she does that in. As long as she's on the right path, I trust that she'll get there with or without me. And that's all that matters because I just want her to feel what I feel in my life, the peace that I feel in my life, all of it. Huge, huge affirmation of yes, it's hard. It is hard to let go of people, but it's right, and it's you have to let go in order to make room for new. And I'm ready for new. So that's where I am on that.
Oh, so beautiful. So much wisdom came
Mm,
through today. I'm so grateful for our conversation together and
mm,
just so many lessons and truly surrendering and being open to spirit and higher power and that channel of infinite love. I'm sure so many people will take so much from our conversation.
mm.
How can people find you, Cynthia, if they want to connect with you further?
Well, first place I would love for people to start would be at cynfulpeace.com, which is Cynfulpeace. I believe that if you start there, you'll understand the different ways in which you can consume my services, whether it be in a one-on-one setting. I've been doing custom workshops and custom weekend retreats, and then I have my destination retreats that are coming up in the next year. So, any one of those ways you can connect with me. I'm certainly on TikTok at Cynful Peas, as well as Instagram and Facebook. My intention is to move my content more towards the podcast. There's just a level of like authenticity that comes from this that is more in alignment for me than what I'm experiencing with using social media. So certainly we'll have this podcast available on Spotify, on YouTube, and what are all the
Oh,
I
Apple
actually
Podcast.
don't even
Yeah.
yeah, thank you. Yeah. This will be available to all those places, and that's my hope to drive traffic more there versus traditional social.
Amazing. I'm sure people will
Mhm.
be reaching out there. Is there any last
Mm.
words for the listener as we close out today?
So grateful for anyone who has joined and made it through this recording. Yeah, this was a huge cliff jump for me. So just full of gratitude.
Yes. Thank you to everyone who's listening and being a part of this conversation. And I trust that
Mhm.
whoever is here was meant to be here.
That's very true. Very true.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Well, thank you. And I can't wait to have you as my guest. So we'll be putting that on the calendar very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Talk to you soon, Julia.